The Emancipation Proclamation Cotton Middle School. The Emancipation Proclamation arrived after Lincoln and his administration had worked for 2 years to end slavery, passing a series of legislations which progressed the agenda of abolition. The first tangible steps occurred in August of 1861, when the U.S. Congress, at that point the Union Congress, enacted the Confiscation Act, a law which allowed the Union Army to take any Confederate property that could be of military use. Slaves counted as Confederate property, and so Union soldiers were able to seize slaves from their Southern owners and bring them to Confederate camps, where the slaves were given work. Further laws passed in March and July of 1862 and testified the effect of the Confiscation Act. These laws protected slaves from the threat of being returned to their former owners and granted them full freedom and the right to serve in any Union Army.
The Emancipation Proclamation has become a fundamental text and a fundamental moment in the Civil Rights Movement. It marked the first major victory in the continuing effort to provide equal rights for Black Americans. In his seminal I Have a Dream speech of 1963, Martin Luther King Jr. began by referring to Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation. Then in the sentimental year, King marked on the importance of Lincoln's address, but he emphasized the enormous work left to be done.
Abraham Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation through unconventional means and under unusual circumstances. Lincoln's intent was to alter the nation's laws on slavery. One obstacle to such change was slavery's lawfulness under the U.S. Constitution, whose rulings may only be shaped by acts of Congress. Lincoln's solution was to issue the proclamation through the powers granted to him as a commander-in-chief during time of war. Lincoln emphasizes his own authority in issuing the proclamation in order to strengthen its effects. So bad.
After Lincoln's monumental announcement, slaves in the South reacted to the news of emancipation in a variety of ways. Despite the hope inspired by the Emancipation Proclamation, it was not yet obvious that the North would win the war. Still, many slaves took action. Some rebelled against their masters, others seized their labor, some fled north to safety or to join the Union Army. Some slaves were worried about these enormous shifts. It was not certain that they would find security as free citizens, given their lack of education and training. All in all, the effects of Emancipation Proclamation decidedly favored the North, with large numbers of slaves abandoning their labors and joining the Union efforts. The balance of power leaned forward towards the North.
Whereas, on the second day of September 1862, a proclamation was issued by the President of the United States, containing, among other things, the following to wit: that on the first day of January A.D. 1863, all persons held as slaves within any state or designated part of a state, the people whereof shall then, in the rebellion against the United States, shall be then, thenceforward and forever free, and the executive government of the United States, including the military, the naval authority therefore of, will recognize and maintain the freedom of such persons, and will not do act or acts to repress such person or of any of them, in any effort they may make for their actual freedom. That the executive will be on the first day of January, as foresaid, the proclamation designated the state and parts of the states, if any in which the people therefore of respectively shall then be in rebellion against the United States, in the fact that any state or the people therefore shall on that day be in good faith represented in the Congress of the United States by members chosen thereto at the election, wherein the majority of qualified voters of such state shall have participated, shall, in the absence of strong countervailing testimony, be deemed conclusive evidence that such states and the people thereof are not then in rebellion against the United States. Now therefore, I, Abraham, President of the United States, by virtue of the power in me vested as Commander-in-Chief of the Army and the Navy of the United States in time of actual armed rebellion against the authority and government of the United States, and as a fit and necessary war measure for suppressing said rebellion due on the first day of January A.D. 1863. And in accordance with my purpose to do so, publicly proclaimed for the full period of 100 days from the first day above mentioned, order and designated as the states and parts of states wherein the people therefore respectively are on this day in rebellion against the United States, the following to wit: Arkansas, Texas, Louisiana, Bernard, Jefferson, St. John, St. Charles, St. James, Assumption, Terrebonne, LaFortune State, St. Mercy State, and Orleans, including the city of New Orleans, Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, and Virginia, except the 48 countries designated as the West Virginia, and also the countries of Berkeley, Ocomack, Northampton, Isabella City, York, Princess, Annie, and Norfolk, including the cities of Norfolk and Portsmouth, in which accepted parts are for the present left precisely as of this proclaim was not issued. And by virtue of the power and for the purpose as foresaid, I do order and declare that all persons held as slaves within said designated states and parts of the states are henceforward shall be free, and that the executive government of the United States, including the military and the naval authorities, therefore say will recognize and maintain the freedom of said persons. And I hereby enjoin upon the people so declared to be free to abstain from all violence unless in necessary self-defense. And I recommend to them that in all cases when allowed, they labor faithfully for reasonable wages. And I further declare and make known that such persons of suitable condition will receive into the armed service of the United States to garrison forts, position stations, and other places into the manned vessel of all sorts in said service. And upon this act, sincerely believed to be an act of justice, warranted by the Constitution, upon military necessity, I invoke the considerate judgment of mankind and gracious favor of Almighty God.